Hi, and welcome to another episode of Delaware County Political News Meet the Expert. I am your host, Larry DeMarco, and today we are here with Joel Coon, the campaign manager of the Democratic County candidates for the 2017 election. Joel is a Democratic consultant from Virginia who's been working on campaigns for 15 years. He's done various levels from field to communications to management, and he's worked on different types of campaigns from gubernatorial to congressional to Senate. He grew up in Mississippi and now he lives in Virginia. I will be speaking to him in his home via Skype. Please enjoy my interview with Joel Coon. Joel, here in Delaware County, the question on everyone's mind is, will you come back?
I have no idea. It depends on if there are Republicans to defeat. If there are any more left after this next year.
Joel, I can guarantee you there are Republicans left. The GOP is alive and strong in the state house. And again, there's 3 more county council people left.
I definitely have come to know and love Delaware County very much. The people there, the Democrats there, are all hardworking people, and they deserved this win. They all worked very, very hard for this, from the municipal committee level all the way to the county committee level. And you have a lot of really dedicated Democrats there, and I think that if they continue working like they work this year, that they'll prevail.
How did the county ticket find you, Joel?
Through another political consultant. Brian and Kevin were looking for someone with some experience at running a campaign, professional campaign, and through one of their consultants, they reached out to me, and I interviewed with them and saw a challenge. I grew up in Mississippi, where there are lots and lots of Republicans, and it's not easy to beat Republicans. So when they told me about Delaware County having a 140-year-old Republican machine, that kind of set off a light bulb in my head. Said, this is a fight worth having, and one that I'd like to get into. And so I showed up, and we had a great team to work with, and in election day, we prevailed.
How long did it take you to figure out what was going on here in Delaware County?
Well, thankfully, I had a lot of folks around to give me advice on kind of the political lay of the land. David Landau, for one, gave me a lot of advice on the political lay of the land. Joe Corrigan is a political consultant, local guy there, without which I would have been pretty much blind and to the kind of political on the ground realities. But usually it's like this in any other campaign where you come in from the outside. You're able to bring a fresh set of eyes to things, and uh, whether it was me being ignorant of how powerful the Republicans were, or I just didn't care. Either way, uh, it came to the point where I just wasn't afraid to take them on, and neither were any of the candidates that I was working for. And at the end of the day, this is about the candidates, not about me, not about the Democrats who volunteered for them or anything else. It's about these candidates being willing to stand up to a very, very powerful machine and take it on in an aggressive manner without fear. And we were fortunate to have the group of candidates from Brian Zidek and Kevin Madden for County Council, Joanne Phillips for Controller, Mary Walk for Register of Wills, Jerry Sanders for Sheriff. I mean, we had a set of 5 candidates who were all fearless in taking on the Republican machine. Who, as you well know, you're from there. They've been there for over a century. It hasn't been a Democrat popularly elected since the 70s, or actually ever popularly elected. It hasn't been a Democrat on council since the 70s. So
And as a county candidate, Kelly
Mhm.
Eckel did a great job going against Jack Whalen too,
She
didn't
really did. It was a kind of a different situation with her being a judicial candidate, and kind of the rules didn't allow her to kind of take part in some of the more aggressive stuff. that we were engaging in to challenge those folks. And Kelly has a wonderful future. If you look at the results, she wasn't very, very far behind. I mean, she did better than any other candidate running for judge against a Commonwealth Court of Common Pleas judge in the county. I think ever. I mean, it's a very, very close race, and I think she has a very, very wonderful future. She's a very strong candidate, has very strong ethics and drive. So I think that people should look for her to come back.
Now that the campaign is over, what
Mhm.
strategy did you implement for this historically victorious campaign?
Well, just like any successful campaign, you have to be disciplined with your message, and you have to check all the corners. We started out, I say we, volunteers started out in January doing research for this campaign, doing right to know requests in municipalities all over Delco and with the county. And we had professional researchers engaged as well. And we were able to basically find out what's been going on in Delco that it shouldn't be going on. There's no illegal behavior, but there's definitely unethical behavior going on in Delco with respect to how contracts have been doled out. Um, Pay-to-pay politics is a term you heard us use a lot, which is where if you give money to a candidate, you get a contract eventually. And we found that sometimes it was only a week or so later, after or before a donation was given, that a contract was awarded. And we made a lot of noise about that because we thought that the voters deserved to know. And I think for the first time, because of all the research that was done, for the first time, voters were actually able to have the curtain pulled back on how Delco works. And they didn't like what they saw. And on election day, they made their displeasure known.
What strategy did you face from the GOP?
Well, they have a really strong political machine, and they ran the playbook that they've always run, and they ran a very strong campaign. They have well organized municipal committees. They have plenty of fundraising prowess. They were able to outspend us only 4-1 on television. I think 2-1 or more in the mail. With very very aggressive attacks on our guys. Ultimately, the voters did not believe their attacks, partly because we were able to push back with the facts, um, and partly because the voters didn't care anymore. They cared more about the corruption that they saw on a county level than they did about anything that the voters had to say about our candidates. And to be honest with you, we vetted our candidates very, very strongly. And there was nothing there that should have worried any voter. Our candidates are very high ethics, and they're good, solid business folks across the board, or lawyers, and we didn't have anything to worry about there. But in contrast, the Republicans did. They've been running government in a way that's shameful for decades, and we pulled the curtain back on it, and the voters didn't like what they saw.
Joel, I know there's probably too many people to thank individually, but
Mhm.
what help did you get from volunteers and other staff?
I got to tell you, I want to start with the candidates. I mean, I can't say enough about the group of candidates that I worked with. Brian and Kevin for county council, they were rocks throughout this whole thing, and they placed a lot of trust both in me and in kind of professional campaign techniques. And so did Joanne, Mary, and Jerry. Uh, Very very strong candidates there. But then David Landau, he was the chair of the multi candidate committee that we set up. He was a very strong leader there. As far as on a local level, I have to say Shelley Rahman, the executive director of the county party, was just very gracious to me from the very beginning and showing me the ropes and kind of where the bathrooms are, so to speak, in the county, showing me where I could find things. Amanda Hammock, who was a super volunteer at the party, became a dear friend, and as well as our husband Brian. I would say Jim Butt was just an amazing source of strength for me, even through kind of personal tragedies he was dealing with. Was a very very solid person to back me up there. Um, Brett Berman, he and I perused pages and pages and pages of campaign finance reports trying to find out the truth. Where's the money coming from? And then I get any mention of our communication success. has to include Bonnie Friedman. Bonnie Friedman is a volunteer who did just an amazing job, one of the most professional jobs on campaign research I've ever seen. We would not have had a tenth of the communication success we would have had without Bonnie Friedman's help and her organization of literally thousands upon thousands of pages of contracts and invoices and bids from municipalities all across the county. And it was very dense information, and she was able to organize it. And we were able to pull back the curtain, like I've said over and over again, about how Delaware County government has been running for decades and the way and expose it for how it shouldn't run. So we were able to offer that. But not only did we pull back the curtain, but we also offered strong solutions. I mean, anybody can burn down a barn, but it takes someone with some vision to build something lasting, and that's why Brian and Kevin, you'll see more of this from them in the future, from County Council, and you'll see more of this from Jerry and Joanne and Mary in the row offices. They're going to be absolutely committed to transparency. They're going to let the taxpayers know exactly where every single dime goes and how the decision came to be made to put that money where it goes. And there'll be ethics reform to reform how this pay structure operates. Now, the Republicans, they hold the majority. They can block that if they want to. But I would advise them to embrace this. It's good for them. It's good for us. No party, whether it's Democrat or Republican, should operate the way that Republicans have been operating here in Delco for decades. And I have to tell you, I've seen Democratic governments work like this, and I've seen Republican governments work like this, and it never works out well for the taxpayers. And Delco is very, very fortunate to have a set of candidates across the board now that are committed to ethics reform and transparency.
Any surprises or curveballs along the way?
Not really. I mean, they hit us. We expected them to hit us hard. I was surprised that the Republican message seemed to be all over the place. They really couldn't figure out what they wanted to attack us on. It's like they were flailing about kind of desperately. They would attack us on business practices one moment, and then taxes another moment, and then kind of some scurrilous charges against Kevin over an app and stuff that appeared on websites 4 steps away from his app. They couldn't figure out what they wanted to attack us on. And their message was fairly consistent. We've kept your taxes low, even though they had raised them twice. Dave White voted to raise taxes twice, I believe. They just continuously switched their message up, and I thought that didn't serve them very well. And it's I'd like to extend my thanks to the candidates again for sticking with a very strong, coherent, disciplined message. I think that's in the end that's what won it for us, is that we stuck with the message. And I don't think you can talk about this race without talking about Donald Trump. I mean, you really can't. He definitely gave us a boost in the fact that, didn't give us a boost. The popular anger against Donald Trump definitely motivated a lot of voters to pay closer attention to local races. Now, I don't believe that we would have prevailed without the message we had. I mean, voters had to have something real to hang their hats on. They couldn't just be angry at Trump and vote against Republicans. I don't think that was ever going to work, and I don't think it ever will work. But I do believe that it definitely allowed voters to take another look at us.
Joel, you've been to other places for campaigns. What's unique about the people of Delaware County from an outside's perspective?
It's funny. I tell people all over the place. I tell candidates and volunteers and everywhere across the country that 1 + 1 = 2 in Delco, just like it equals 2 in Virginia or New Orleans or Texas or Rhode Island or any of these other states or locations that I've worked in. The math is the same, and people generally want good government. People generally want to see their tax dollars spent well. It doesn't matter if their government's going well. They want it to do better than it is now. There's this constant drive to have things done better. Well, that much doesn't change from place to place. I mean, you have some subtle cultural differences, but people are people. I don't see a whole lot of difference from one place to the next. So that's that. I think that's something that was kind of unique about Delco in that everyone that I spoke to, whether it was Republicans in restaurants or on the street or Democrats that I spoke to a lot, activists in around the county, everyone kind of knew that Delco was corrupt, right? The government was corrupt and it was a machine. And, the Republicans have always kind of been very ruthless in their campaigns. And there was no way a Democrat could win. Across the board, didn't matter if you're a Democrat or Republican, that's what people believed. And I thought that was pretty unique. That although both sides knew this was a problem, no one was doing anything about it. And
what do you attribute that to? That complacency?
The longevity of, well, a couple things. One, Delaware County is a pretty nice place to live. It has definite problem spots and challenges in different townships and stuff in the county, but generally the county is on the right track. And our research showed that the voters generally thought that Delco was on the right track. So, why change things if you think things are going great? So that was one thing. And also, the Republicans have won for so long. It's a legitimate question. Can you really beat these guys? They've been in power for 40 years. What makes you think you can beat these guys? So there's that. It's not necessarily complacency because there's been a lot of Democrats tried over the last 5 years. I mean, Bill Clinton and a couple other folks ran in 13 and ran real strong campaigns. Christine Ruther and others ran in 15 and ran strong campaigns. It's not like people haven't tried, and it's not like people haven't been trying to fight this fight for a long time, despite the kind of uphill battle they had. And I have to tell you that our campaign, when I say our campaign, the campaign of these candidates, they stood on the shoulders of all these other people who ran before. Christine Ruther and Womack and Booker and
I ran.
Bill Clinton.
Joel, I ran in 2015, just so you know.
And DeMarco, sorry, right, as well, yourself as well.
Thank you.
All of you guys, we stood on all your shoulders. I mean, politics is a game of inches, or one vote at a time, if you want to say. And Delaware County's been climbing out of this hole for a long time, and it was this year with this set of candidates that we kind of found the right mix.
So what's next for Joel Coon?
I don't know. I got to find another fight to get into. I can't imagine not fighting what I believe is a righteous fight, and that's usually fighting Republicans for me. So
before we went on the tape, yeah. Joel, you were describing your own district. What comment did you make?
Oh, I live in Virginia, and I'm very, very fortunate to live in Virginia. I live in Petersburg, Virginia, where my city councilman is a Democrat. My mayor is a Democrat. My congressman's a Democrat. My senator, both of my United States senators are Democrats. My attorney general is a Democrat. My lieutenant governor is a Democrat, and my governor is a Democrat. So I feel very, very fortunate to live where I am. And to be represented by such a kind of long line of Democrats, and Virginia is getting more and more blue. I mean, it's a definite purple state right now, but it's getting more and more blue, and I think that the Virginia way is going to lead the way around the country. Kind of a good common sense Democrats getting elected.
Well, the Delaware County Democratic Party certainly was very grateful to have you show up in 2017. And that's all we have time for today. But thank you for being a guest on Delaware County Political News, and we hope to have you back.
Thanks, Larry.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye now. We have been here with Joel Coon, and I am your host, Larry DeMarco. If you like this video, please don't forget to like, share, follow, and subscribe, and to forward this link to all the friends on your contact list and Facebook friends. We're signing off. Tune in next time. Bye for now.